Hey guys, it's currently the following day, Friday. Yesterday was a Thursday. Welcome to another episode. By the way, the market has been kicking my ass, and it sucks, but I gotta stick to the plan, right? Now I wanted to do a chart replay because if I do not do a chart replay, you guys will not see how my thought flow was at that particular moment. The thing is that I should have made this video like a while ago while the market was active at that spot where I was entering the market, but I was just kind of lazy, and now I have to do a chart replay to kind of like show you guys exactly what has been happening and exactly how the market has been kicking my butt. All right, let's go. Um, so in yesterday's episode, right, I was talking about how we made profit. It was all good. I made 45 pips. If you've not seen that video, I'm going to leave it in the description below so you guys can go check it out, right? So I made 45 pips yesterday after taking a stupid losing trade, which was this particular trade, right? I took this particular trade trying to sell to the downside, and then the market just turned around and went up. That was great, right? And I FOMOed into it, knowing fully well that that was not a good trade to enter. I FOMOed into it, hoping that the market would go my way, even though the market was showing me reasons why it wasn't going to go my way. I just kind of FOMOed into it when the market just started running my way, right? And then it taught me a lesson. So that's never going to happen again. I'm never going to do such stupidity anymore. But what happened next was even much more crazier. All right. Maybe I should also do this on the DXY as well. Hold on. This is the DXY. We have broken the structure for the downtrend, right? Where all this was like a downtrend. We broke the structure, broke up, created a higher high, higher low, higher high. We got to resistance. This is a resistance right here. So we're like, okay, the uptrend is still has already started. Downtrend is over, right? So we are starting to proceed as planned to the uptrend. So if I'm seeing a sell signal, right, I would want like a confirmation. It's all in yesterday's episode, by the way. I want a confirmation of a lower high, lower low, lower high, and then obviously, sell on the lower low. That was the whole plan, and we're at this particular spot, right? I don't want to shift the chart to the right because obviously you can see it start telling you what happened, what actually happened. So I want to like show you guys bit by bit how it all played out and what happened. All right, so this was USDJPY and this was DXY yesterday, and now let's go over to what happened. All right, so we were all in this signal. Sorry, I was out of the trade for profit. We made back all the money that we lost yesterday on USDJPY. That was great, right? I like to color code my trend lines so I will know this is my intraday trend line. This is my trend line that comes all the way from the daily chart, right? That's why it's coated black. Okay, so now the market has clearly broken the safety line. I told you guys I was not going to be selling the market at that particular point in time, right? Because obviously I was having more of a bullish bias. And I mean, I was not wrong for having more of a bullish bias because I've seen it happen where you try to sell when the market is clearly telling you that it's going up, and then obviously the market just keeps ripping up, and then the basically you sell for a very, very short time, and then the market just turns around and goes up. So I wasn't going to get into that again. So normally, if I wasn't aware of the DXY or anything like that, I mean, I would just trade what I see, right? But I've taken so many bad trades, that I know I should not be in those trades, but I just because of the market is showing me a signal, I go ahead and take the sell or something, and then it doesn't go in my favor. So I've seen enough of those kind of trades to kind of be like, okay, you know what, I'm not going to take those trades, right? So we had this breakout, and then we had two bullish pin bars here, which already told me that, okay, if we are meant to go up, this will be the perfect time to go up. We got a tweezer, two small pin bars, right? And then as soon as we broke below the lows of those pin bars, I knew that, okay, this is clearly telling me that the market is not ready to go up yet. And this was late last night just before the Asian markets opened. So I saw it and I was like, okay, you know what? This is actually a signal normally for me to get into the trade, because all I just needed to do was do this, right? This was enough for me of a signal, right? Basically, this what this indicated to me was we had a higher high, lower low, lower high, and now we've cleared the bottom of that these two pin bars, which to me represent a retracement, and we've now had a new lower low. So I saw this when it was happening. I literally saw it and I was like, man, this would actually be this is actually a very good sell signal. But for some reason, I wasn't willing to risk it. I was just like, I don't know. I guess maybe also too part of the fact that I was kind of cautious about entering trades, that I didn't want to have to lose all the money that I just made again. And being that I already saw that the DXY was trending, starting to break trend to the top side, I was like, okay, you know what? I don't think this is a very good trade, but I don't think I should enter, because normally what I would do is I would have my sell stop over here. Sorry, let me do this for you guys, because mind you, this is actually a bar replay on the MT4 platform. So I am currently replaying the bars for you guys. So this is where I would set my sell signal, right? And then my stop loss would be at the top here. So this right here would have been a, like 33 pips, 32 pips, or 30 pips, right? So this would have been like a 30 pips, right? And my stuff would have been drawn like this, right? My safety line would have been drawn this way, right? And then I'll just kind of like watch what happens. Okay. So obviously I saw all that in play and I was like, man, I really should get into this trade. Obviously I didn't get into the trade because of all what I just said, right? So now let's continue the playback and let's see what happens with price. And by the way, while that was happening, let's go back to my DXY. This was what DXY was doing, right? So DXY was not, even though the USDJPY are just giving us two tweezers, bullish tweezers, the DXY was still kind of like hanging out around this recent higher high, above the recent higher high of the uptrend, right? Of the uptrend structure, even though it had already broken the safety line already, which shows that, okay, are we about to sell? Sometimes it happens that it just kind of breaks and drifts above it, but it's still, the whole structure is still overwhelmingly bullish. So I was looking at this as well, that okay, we might also be coming back to like, bounce off of this support over here. So even if I took that sell, it will just be coming towards this place and then we could be turning right back around to the top side. This was my whole thesis, right? So anyways, going back to our chart, let's see how the market played out. You guys can see the market played out very, very beautifully. This would have been a very, very great trade for me to enter. In fact, what would have happened was that if I had had since I had had my stop loss here, right, since I was selling the market here, what I would have just done was that since we had now broken this low, right, because at this point we're now at this point creating lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, right? What I could have just done was I would have just shifted my stop loss a little bit lower. So that was like a 7 pips drop. So, this was a perfect, I was already kind of like, biting my fingers and like, man, this was a great trade I would have entered. But then I was thinking about it like, man, with all what I have going against me right now, I don't think it would be right for me to enter this trade. I just wanted it to be more clear. I wanted more clarity. I didn't just want to jump into the market like I did earlier, because I'm sure this thing was what made me not want to like FOMO into the market again. Like I didn't want to have to do that. Having seen what it did here, and since we had like a huge spike to the top side, I was like, you know what? I don't want to have to do this again. So let's just see how it goes. The market kept on doing its thing, kept on going down. At this point, it just kept on drifting down, lower, lower, lower. At this point, we're already kind of starting to like get to this support that we have over here, right? We're already kind of getting to this support over here already. You see the market kind of like starting to spike up a little bit. At this point, we've already come down by about, 45, 46 pips. Yeah, 45 pips. We already dropped about 45 pips already. So anyways, I see this and then I'm like, man, what's going on here? Let's go back to the DXY and see what the DXY was doing when I saw this starting to play. I was already looking at this that, okay, at this point, the bearish market is back in DXY, right? We are starting to go down in price already, right? So at this point, here's what I did. I adjusted my trend line, did it like this, and I was just waiting for a sell signal. But here was what was happening. Let's go back to DXY and see what exactly was happening. You can see the market started going down. This is all this stuff that was going on here, right? All this stuff that is going on here, right? With the market dropping and all that. The DXY was even dropping even harder. You can see how the DXY was just like dropping very, 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 very like crazy, right? It kept on dropping. It got here. This particular spot got here. So first of all, let's check the time here. This was like 5 o'clock in the morning. So DXY 5 o'clock in the morning was somewhere around here. Okay, this is 5 o'clock in the morning, right? At this point, I already kind of like broken another trend line over here. So clearly showing us that, man, we are at this point it has broken structure already. We are clearly in a downtrend. This was the low of the lower low of the uptrend. At the moment when it broke this structure, I already knew, okay, at this point we need to start looking for sell signals because we're in a sell now, right? So going back to at this point, obviously you guys can see how it played out, right? It came all the way down, and at this point I was looking for a sell signal. So I just kept on looking, and while the market was doing this, I was like, okay, this is great. We can clearly see that we are starting to kind of like have some sort of slowdown over here, and all I was just looking for was a good breakout of this trend line, right? Hey guys, sorry my mic died, so sorry if the audio changed a little bit. Going back to what happened here, setting my sell stop here, stop loss here, drawing a steeper trend line, right? This is a much more steeper safety line to get me out of the market if things start going haywire. So at this point in time, when we were getting this signal, DXY was already at this support already. Was already at the daily trend line already. The market was already at this support already. You can see the market pulled all the way down and closed on the trend line. This candle was where I actually entered the market on USDJPY. But on DXY, it had already gone all the way down. It was like it had already exhausted so much, stopped at the trend line. At this point, I was already starting to kind of like, it was a 50-50 thing. But it didn't mean that the market was not going to continue going down, right? But it was just a 50-50 thing at this point, and I was like, okay, you know what? I'm willing to roll the dice on that because clearly the structure has clearly said that we're going to continue the downtrend, right? We have already started creating lower highs and lower lows and all that. So I was like, okay, you know what? We are clearly continuing the lower low. So even though DXY is currently on the support, the daily support of the daily trend line support, and that was where I'm actually entering the market. Let's just see how it goes. So here's what happens. Going back to USDJPY, if I continue this playback, you can see that we didn't actually enter the market until after this candlestick close. So I sold the market, I didn't sell the market, but I entered a sell stop at 7 o'clock, right? I didn't get into the market until 9 o'clock. Yeah, I was already in the market and I was like, okay, no problem. And at this point, here's what DXY was doing. DXY had already kind of like continued to go down. We already had this second candlestick over here, and you guys can see it even continue to go down, as time went on, right? Okay, I was like, okay, you know what? This is great. But here's the thing. The market then now started to slow down. See this rubbish right here. I got into the market and then it literally started to slow down. Then the next candlestick was literally opening outside my safety line, right? So at this point I was like, man, if this candlestick right now closes above my safety line, because I have to follow my strategy, I would literally have to just do this, drag my stop loss down, right? That's what I would have to do, right? Okay, let's watch what exactly happens, right? So because at this point DXY is already downtrending, it has resumed the downtrend, it's downtrending again. Okay, here's what happened, right? Yeah, we close, this candlestick closes above, even though it was like a small candlestick, it closes above my safety line. Now I was still leaning towards the bearish side. I was like, man, this is just not a good trade. I was like, okay, you know what, I have to follow my strategy, right? Because I don't want to have to start, because when you start saying, maybe I should just leave it, maybe the market will, before you know, the market will just keep going up and then stop you out for even bigger loss. what you always want to do in the market is lose as little as possible, right? Lose as little as possible. That's like what your focus should always be in the market. And that just kept on playing in my mind, like lose as little as possible. This sucks. I know that this market is probably going to continue going down, but I'm not going to trade what I feel. I'm going to trade what I see, right? If I should have definitely, this would have been the best place like to sell it, right? This would have been the perfect place to have sold this market, but you know, well, yeah, shit happens, right? This is why I'm going to be selling it now. I got the wrong end of the stick. At this point, I've already gotten like how many retracements? 1, 2, and this will be the third retracement, right? So if I was following, if I started selling all the way from here, I'd have literally taken like 3 entries into this trade, and I would have been in profit. Anyways, here's what I did. As soon as the market closed above the safety line, the steeper safety line, I just had to like do this, unfortunately. But you know what, I still didn't make it very close to because yeah, normally this is what I'll do. I'll shift it so close to the high of the candlestick so that the market just stops me out, you know, just that little glimmer of hope, like okay, maybe the market is going to like turn around. Because sometimes even after I shift it so close to the high, the next candlestick just turns around and starts going down, right? So sometimes I just leave it to be, I don't close the trade immediately. I just shift my stop loss to come to the high of the candlestick that closes above the safety line, right? Outside of the safety line. But what I did here was that I didn't even make it very close. What I did here was I still put it like somewhere around here. I still put it like around here to be above the high of this candlestick here. So I was like, okay, let me just put it above there and let's just see what happened, right? In hindsight, I probably should have put it here, but anyways, I put it somewhere around here. I was like, you know what, that's as much as I'm willing to give, because at this point I was already kind of like having a bad taste in my mouth for not entering this sell signal over here that I clearly saw and I should have entered, but you know, the plan was just not aligning yet, and things like that happen, right? Things like that just happens, right? It's so annoying. Guess what happens next? Okay, by the way, the DXY is still doing this thing, still going down and, you know, continue to trend down and all that, right? Let's see what happens next. Okay, this is exactly what happens. The thing is that I actually, clearly, because I clearly got stopped. So this, my stop loss was like somewhere around here, right? The market continued downward, but it just stopped me out. As soon as it stopped me out, it just freaking continued downward, right? So at this point I was like, oh my gosh, like I was out of the trade already, right? I was literally just out of the trade, and the market just continued down in my favor just after it stopped me out, right? So in hindsight, I probably should have like put my stop loss maybe just a bit higher, right? But it's like, how was I supposed to know? You are never. How are you supposed to know these things? You're not supposed to. I don't predict the market. I just do. In fact, if I was doing the right thing, if I was even following my strategy to the T, what I should have actually done was do this, right? Push my stop loss to the top of this bullish candlestick that closed out of my safety line, and then I would have been stopped out of the market like way earlier. But I was stopped out just barely at the edge, right? The market just ticked up a bit, not more than 1 or 2 pips above my stop loss, and then it just declined. Oh, this sucked us so bad. This was so bad, because it was such a it was already like, at this point I was already kind of like, I'm not gonna lie, I was already kind of like in my feelings like, man, I really should have taken the sell, but I didn't take the sell because, you know, the bullish structure has already started to form already, and so all that happened, right? I got out of the market, you know, I basically just adjusted my safety line here. So let's just see how it happened, and the market even just continued to go down, right? At this point I was like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me, right? Like, this is just crazy. This is just crazy stuff. And at this point I can't even take this signal anymore, because even though now, you know, it would be great to like enter, sell again, at this point this is like how many pips? This is like 95 pips, almost 100 pips wide stop loss. And at this point, we have already gone way beyond our average true range already, right? The average true range for USDJPY is like 125 pips or something, right? We already gone like way. This was already a very wide stop loss for me, right? Because at this point, this is where the safety line is. This is where the safety line is. This is where I will be selling. Very, 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 very wide, right? So at this point, I was like, man, this really, really sucks. Like, really, 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 really sucks, right? So, anyways, I lost how many pips here? Let's see how many pips that I lost. Let me calculate it. I mean, the easiest way would have just been to like go to my account history, but yeah, this was like a 21 pips or 20 pips stop loss. So I would say half of the trade that we took yesterday, because yesterday we closed for 45 pips, right? We've lost 20, we've lost half back. We've given half back to the market because, you know, the market just wanted to be an asshole. And, you know, this doesn't mean I'm going to be revenge trading. Obviously, I've not taken any more entry since then because obviously this was just too wide. I just needed, at least now, I know that we are bearish in the market now for USD, for DXY, and USDJPY is also bearish. So now I'm going to be looking for bearish signals, right? It sucked so bad that we had to go through whatever this was, whatever experiment this was. But you know, this is what it is right now. Got out of the trade for a loss, right? 20 pips loss. And you know, it just sucks. It just sucks. I'm not gonna lie, it just really, really sucked. Let's go back to the DXY. Let's see what happened with the DXY. Let me just make the chart normal again so you guys will see what's happening. Guess what happened with the DXY, right? DXY just broke below, give us this. I don't even understand what this is. Let me zoom in for you guys. You know, give us this weird looking signal here. Why the DXY was, it obviously came down in price and then started pumping back up. USDJPY was just continuing to go down. Let me continue the playback for you guys. The USDJPY was just like continuing to go down, and then this was where it now started kind of like, you know, turning around and stuff like that. So what I did was, okay, clearly we've broken the original state of the daily trend line. Okay, we're starting to retrace. I do this, I continue the playback, now looking for a sell. But here's what the market just started doing. The market has just been like, so basically we dropped so much in price and then we're just like in the range, and now this is the present market price right now. So at this point we're just kind of like, I've drawn an even steeper line, and whenever at this point I'm already like, whenever I see stuff like this, I just kind of like, well, at this point it's fair game, I'm already in profit. I just kind of look away from it until when the market kind of like breaks below this trend line, right? So at this point I would have been like, how many pips in profit? I would have been like 33 pips in profit, aside from the original 30 pips that I've already taken out of the market already, just by the market dropping. Because remember, I have a 3 stop entries, right? I take first, based on my strategy, based on my back testing, I've realized that this on USDJPY, the market moves at least 20 pips in my favor before hitting my stop loss. So what I do is I place 3 entries. I place one at 10 pips. That is always the highest. That one has the higher accuracy. That has a higher win rate. Place 10 pips. Place 20 pips, and then I let the rest run. So 10 pips would have definitely gotten out of the market. So I would have made 30 pips because I would have taken one out at 10 pips and I would have taken another one out at 20 pips. At that point, I'll be in total of 30 pips in this whole run, and then I'll just let the rest run. And right now I'll just be like in 33 pips. So that would have been like, so even if the market just comes around and hits this stop loss, that would be like 66 pips or something like that, right? Or 63 pips. So anyways, this is what the present market price is right now. And let me show you guys, let me zoom in for you guys so you guys will see this whole unfortunate event. So this is the present market price right now. You can see the market is just dilly-dally. It's currently Friday. So basically, the New York market is going to be closing in 2 hours. So the time is currently 7:46 West African time, right? So it's almost 4 o'clock in New York, right? So once it's 4 o'clock, that's it. The market has closed till on Sunday morning West African time, right? Which will be Monday morning in New York. No, it won't even be Monday morning in New York. The first market to open will be the Sydney market, right? So I don't know. You guys will follow Forex. You understand what I'm talking about? Anyways, the market is about to close. So at this point, I'm not even bothered. Like, I might as well just close the chart. It's really, really, so basically today has just been like a really, 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 really sucky day, right? It really, really sucks. But am I going to like cry? No, trust me, I've been in my feelings already. This has really, really sucked ass because it's like, I set my stop loss at just at the tip, just the tip, guys. And then the market just kind of like spiked up and then went all the way down. And by the way, this was not even news. There was no news, at least none that was scheduled. There was no scheduled news or anything like that. So the market just dropped. I'm sure something must have happened or somewhere that I don't know. I don't have to know everything, but you know, this happened. The market just continues to trend down. Clearly, now we are fully bearish now for USD JPY. So I'm just going to be looking for sell signals. And you know what? This is USD JPY, right? I've been showing you guys USD JPY. Let me show you guys GBP USD, because I took GBP USD. I took a buy and I got out of the buy too soon. Oh, my life, right? So anyways, got into the market for GBP USD. This one is a simple one, right? Got into the market. We had like this break. So for the longest time, GBP USD had kind of like been in this range, right? It had kind of like been in this whole ranging area. You can see the market kind of like broke up, right? And then just like kind of like ranging. So, and at this point, I've been taking trades into this. I didn't even realize on time that we were even ranging. This is why it's very, very important for you to kind of look left a little bit. If I just look left a little bit, you know, guys, I'm just making a bunch of mistakes that I'm just learning from. I'm just thanking God. I'm just learning from them, because guys, trust me, if I'm not learning from these mistakes, it's going to suck so much. And it's really, really bad for my account right now that I am making these stupid, silly mistakes, and I know I'm never going to make them again, because I am recording these videos. Even though I'm recording them for YouTube, I'm really recording them for myself to like see how stupid I've been, right? So sometimes you kind of get into the weeds of what the market is doing with each swing, that you forget that I think this market is starting to range, right? And if you really look at it, the market kind of like went pumped up and then just like kind of like started ranging, right? Anyways, you can see we have like a support over here. The market kind of broke above and then kind of like been bouncing from that support and all that. So I was just waiting for it to kind of like break above. So you see this line right here. This is a trend line. It's a purple trend line all the way from the weekly. This is a weekly trend line. It comes all the way from the weekly. So I already knew that, man, this is a very strong trend line. All I just need is for a breakout of this trend line. Okay, so now let me zoom in. We got a final breakout of this trend line, and I was like, oh, finally a good trade I can get into. Okay, I placed my buy stop over here. You can see we got into the market. My stop loss was, oh sorry, let me do this. We placed the buy stop over here. My stop loss was over here, right? And you can see we already have like a safety line over here, right? Let me delete all these other trend lines for you guys, because it might just be confusing for you guys. You guys can clearly see this, right? I drew my line from here, and then so we have one bounce here, and then we have another safety line here. So I'm like, okay, so we clearly have like a whole thing going on here. All right, the market started to go up, spiked a little bit. This was where it was like, at this point it was when USJPY was also doing its whole thing too. GBP USD was also doing its own thing, and then the next candlestick kind of popped up. So I was already in the market. My stop loss was here, so the whole thing was just, you know, we retraced a little bit, then continued to bounce up, right? So we now created an even higher high. So at this point I was like, okay, that's good. And then I now drew a steeper trend line here, right? No, this was exactly where it was, right? So I drew this trend, and I was like, okay, you know what, this is fine. Let's just see how the market keeps reacting to this, right? As soon as we bounced and closed above it, I moved my stop loss from here. I moved it to here. So normally my stop loss was here, but because of I was feeling whatever feeling I was feeling from this trade, of having lost this trade, right? I basically, this is what I should have done. My stop loss should have been left here, right? And I was also on my phone at that moment, so I wasn't really on my laptop to be able to like have a proper view of the charts, right? I can trade from time to time. I do trade on my phone, but my default, what I love doing is trading from the charts on my laptop, right? So maybe I'll have had like a clearer view to this, but I'm not gonna lie. Let me be honest. I was feeling whatever I was feeling from having lost this trade, and I was like, man, this really, really sucks. And we already had like this huge spike already from the original breakout of this resistance trend line, right? And then we now have like another huge spike again. I was like, you know what, instead of setting my stop loss where I'm supposed to set it, right, which is below here, right,
and then wait for the market to kind of like close below this safety line before I move my stop loss. I went ahead and preemptively moved my stop loss to break even. Do you guys see the problem here? Okay, the problem here is that as soon as we got this huge bullish run upwards, right? I wasn't expecting obviously that the market, of course, you never know what the market is going to do next. The market just turns around on the next candlestick, wipes out all that run that it just did. It wiped everything away, hitting my stop loss, closing me out for a break even. So obviously, what I should have done was leave my stop loss here, right? And then see that the market kind of like retraced and closed on the trend line. It closed on the trend line, right? On this safety line, it closed on it. You can see the candlestick over here. It closed on it. Let me zoom in a little bit more for you guys because this is just driving me crazy. The market closed on the trend line. Normally, what I do is that whenever it does this, I wait for one more candlestick to kind of like, you know, let me know if this market is going to continue going down or not. Now, the risk of waiting for one more candlestick is that being that the market is so close to where this my stop loss was, something could have happened here is that, and I've seen it played out sometimes, it works out like that, where when the next candlestick opens, it just keeps going down and losing me money. So I didn't want to lose this money. Basically, I didn't want to have to lose this money. I was like, man, I don't want to have to lose this money. So basically, it was my fear that stopped me from doing what was right? I should have just said, you know what, the market is going to do this thing. I'm following my rules. If I had followed my rules, here's what would have happened. You see the next candlestick that opened up, it just went back and closed inside the safety line. So all I would have just done was move my safety line like this, moved it this way, move my stop loss to here. And you can see the market has now started going up. And at this point, when the market starts going up, I would have just moved my stop loss to break even because at this point, it has already started recovering already. So you guys see how it so sucks, this really sucks, guys. It really sucks. But I let my fear get to me, prevent me from doing what I was supposed to do, right? Because what I should have just told myself was that whenever you encounter situations like this, what you're supposed to tell yourself is you have already allocated the amount of risk you're supposed to risk, right? At this point, and it's not as if I wasn't even okay with losing that amount. I don't know, I just kind of was letting my feelings get to me. You always have to keep yourself in check, right? The price for freedom is eternal vigilance, right? You have to always be vigilant. You have to always remind yourself, you already risked the amount of money, you already risked the amount of money you're supposed to risk. Just let the whole thing play out. Do what the chart is. This was one of the places where, you know, if I just followed my rules, right, I would have been well off on this trade. I would have basically recovered every single thing that I had lost. And I'll be looking for newer entries. So now what I have to do now is move this trend line, move it over here, and you can see the market is already kind of like resisting that area. All I'm just waiting for now is like a close above this line, and then I enter the trade. But guess what? I can't even really enter the trade because if I should have a close above this trend line right now, my stop loss, let's just say we get a buy, I have to put my buy stop above there. Guess where my stop loss will have to be? My stop loss will have to be here. This will have to be like a 60 pips wide stop loss. And that is too wide for me, right? 60 pips at that point is just too wide. It's almost too wide for me, right? So anyways, guys, this sucks ass. If I had just followed my plan, everything would have been great, but I didn't follow my plan, and now I'm paying for it. It's so funny because yesterday's lesson was, you know, first of all, do not FOMO, right? Definitely I'm learning from that lesson of FOMOing into that trade that I made a mistake of FOMOing into. And then I also said yesterday, have the courage to take the next trade when the market presents the opportunity to you, right? Have the courage to take that next trade. And you guys saw how I had the courage to take the next trade when I saw the right thing that the market was presenting. I already saw it. I was like, okay, you know what, this is the right trade to take. The DXY, everything was just falling in place. I had the courage to take that trade. Now today's lesson is have the courage to follow your plan. Right? I think that should be today's lesson, right? Have the courage to follow your plan. And you know, on USDJPY, I followed that plan, right? It's so funny because I did have the courage to follow that plan, even though not to the T. This was where my stop loss was, right? I put my stop loss like here, right? Instead of bringing it closer to the signal that closed outside of my original safety line, right? I put it here instead. But even though by putting it there, I still got stopped out of the market, So wasn't it better to have just been stopped out for like a lesser amount than being stopped out here? But anyways, so I still followed my plan, even though I didn't like follow it to the T. I was 99% there. It still counted. I followed the plan. But on GBP USD now, I didn't now have the courage to follow my plan, right? Because of I was letting the influence, the emotional feeling or whatever I was feeling here, I let it affect this great freaking trade. And I don't know why the market just did this. The market just did this, whatever it just did. And I'm like, man, I didn't lose any more money. That's the thing. I didn't lose any more money. So I shouldn't be mad. But I'm just like, man, if I just followed my plan, it would have worked out well. This is why it's good for you to follow your plan. So meaning that if I follow my plan, I should have been okay with losing this amount of money. I should have been okay with losing it, because now I was even losing less. Remember what I said? Your plan should always be to lose less amount of money. Always plan to lose less amount of money. So my original plan was to lose, like, my original plan was here, right? So this would have been like this was a 43 pips stop loss, right? Or 42 pips stop loss, right? It came down all the way, it shrunk all the way to like 12 pips. So 12 pips stop loss was what I was like crazy about, because it went all, we had lost all, so your main plan should always be to lose lesser amount of money. So I should have been proud of myself for actually losing a lesser amount of money for 12 pips compared to 40 pips. If the market had just turned around and hit my stop loss, my original stop loss, right? So this was me going to be losing lesser amount of money, but I just kind of like let my emotions get to me from all this happening. So if there's any lesson we should learn from this right now, is have the courage to follow your plan, all right, and be proud of yourself that you're actually losing lesser amount of money, because I'm losing 12 pips here as opposed to original 42 pips, right? So you need to be proud of yourself for losing a lesser amount of money, right? That should have actually been what's in my head, that okay, you know what, at least if the market turns around and continues lower, I am getting stopped out for a smaller amount of money, right? And even here, that was exactly the same thing that happened here. Following my plan too made me also lose a lesser amount of money, because remember, my stop loss was originally here, right? So my stop loss was originally here. My sorry guys, let me delete this. So my stop loss was originally here. My the entry was originally here. That was like a 36 pips stop, the 36 pip stop, 36 F7 pips, right? So by moving my stop loss lower, right, I ended up risking, this was now like a 20 pips stop loss. So all the way from 36 pips, the original stop, I had reduced my risk down to 20 pips. So I ended up losing lesser amount. Your main goal when you're trading should always be, I need to lose lesser amount of money. I need to lose lesser amount of money. So whenever the market presents the opportunity for you to lose a lesser amount of money, take it. Just as whenever the market shows you that, oh, I'm going to keep going up, you should also take those opportunities too. So if it gives you the opportunity to lose lesser amount of money, take it and be happy that you lost a lesser amount. Now you have more money to actually trade with, right? So, I shouldn't have gotten so much in my feelings here. I should have just thanked the market for giving me the opportunity to lose a lesser amount of money, even though it clearly just fell all the way down and I would have made way more money. But I let that affect me here. It gave me the opportunity here to also still lose a lesser amount of money. I should have taken it. Well, I took it, but then I was like, and mind you, I wasn't on my laptop then, I was on my phone. So I kind of was like, man, I don't want to have to deal with all this again, having to lose more money. I just shifted it all the way up. And that was like the wrong thing, because I didn't follow my plan, right? Following my plan would have just been waiting for this candlestick to print more bearish and still be okay with losing this money. If it hit my stop loss, I'll be okay. I would have called it a good trade. It would have literally just been a good trade, but I didn't let that happen. I moved my stop loss to break even, and then you can see what happens. The market just continues to print all the way up. I'd have been in profit right now. Oh my gosh. But it's fine. And even right now, you see we are starting to kind of like, we are literally just trying to break through this resistance level right here. We can't really break through it. The market is just doing its thing. At this point, I'll just wait till what happens and see what happens the next market week, right? Lessons for today is every trade is individual. And if you really think about it, it is, because look at what happened here on USDJPY. Whatever happened here was the market just doing its thing, but I was in my own emotions, I was in my own feelings, I was feeling whatever I was feeling. GBP USD was doing everything well, but I was the one that was not feeling great about it. What I should have been feeling at that moment, right? Next time I see something like that, is I should just say, at least now I'm losing way less money than originally planned. So I'm happy about that. And I was thinking I knew what the market was going to do next. That, you know what, maybe the market will come down and hit my stop loss. I was thinking that, man, if this market comes all the way down, which it clearly did, came all the way down, right? I was just ready to get out of the trade, but that was not me following my plan. So basically, have the courage to follow your plan and always treat every trade individually, right? If I treated every trade individually and not let that emotion from USDJPY fuck up my whole feelings, right, I would have literally been in profit in this trade and definitely just left it till next week. And I'm sure the market will continue to go higher and then giving me even better signals and all that. So anyways, enough of me blabbering. I really enjoy making this video. I'm not gonna lie, I really enjoy making it because I feel like I'm making it for you guys as much as I'm making it for me. It's not letting the whole loss and the whole, and mind you, I didn't lose any more money, but I'm just pissed that I didn't stay in the trade, right? But that's not going to make me now start jumping into the trades, right? So I'm making these videos for myself just as I'm making it for you guys. You know, I'm making it for myself as well, just kind of like remind me of the lessons of what I need to be doing, and all that stuff. Anyways, that's it for now. It's been one hell of a week, and yeah, see you guys next week. Cheers.